Hey, you guys, good morning. My 9 o'clock call had to move to 9:30, so I thought I'd hop on really quick this morning and say happy day 5. We're over the hump. In fact, we're almost down to the getting through that first week, which is really, really, really cool. So again, just wanted to remind you to be asking yourself, what's going well? What's getting in my way? What could I do different? What do I need to adjust? Because remember, at the end of this week, you're going to take a picture. You're going to sort of examine your week and decide what you're going to commit to for the following week within the parameters of what we have set up here in the group. So today I just want to take a few minutes and talk about simplifying. Yes, this is the October challenge, but remember, a big part of the challenge is obsession free. And in a way, sometimes it's hard to let go of obsessing on numbers, on what you're doing, especially if you are used to doing that as a way to control um, your food. I think, my goal for every person is always to have food freedom where you can just eat without having to spend a lot of time and energy thinking about it. So I just wanted to quickly go through the process that I go through when I am deciding what to eat and how to eat. And what I do on a high protein day versus a low protein day, not low protein, higher fat day. So the first thing that I do is I establish at the beginning of the week which days are going to be my high protein days. And again, the benefit of doing that is really knowing like what your inventory is. What do I have in my refrigerator? I sort of already have an idea of my higher protein foods and my higher fat foods. And yes, some of those things can cross over because they are sort of equal. So first, let's identify what is a high protein food. If you flip over your packages, your meat to the back, it's going to give you nutrition information. When you look at your fat grams and your protein grams, if your fat grams is higher than or equal to your protein, that is already high fat. It already is at least 65% of its calories come from fat. So it is already fully a high fat item. If you have your protein grams higher than your fat, that is naturally a higher protein item. So again, you may have one that's 50-50. If you have an item that's 50-50, it still is considered high fat because 65% of the calories in that item come from fat, and that makes it fall into that ketogenic category. So what you want to do is, if it is a high fat day, like today is a high fat day, which honestly is just a normal keto day for me, I chose 73-27 hamburger patties, and they happen to have 30 grams of fat each, and they only have 17 grams of protein. So it's a high fat day. That's a great choice for me. Now, the burger by itself is already high fat. If I needed to add more fat to that for satisfaction, to fill me up, I could. I have that option, but I don't have to because of the meat that I've chosen. It is already high fat. So I opted to have 3 of those. I didn't add extra fat to it. I put hot sauce on it, as you guys will see in the picture. And again, it's already a high fat day. There's nothing I need to do to make that meat high fat. I also opted to have a small green salad with some olives, which again add a very few carbs, but they are also a great source of fruit fat. And I put some high fat Greek Primal Kitchen dressing on it. So that was my first meal. It's very high fat, not complicated, and I think that's what we have to do. So we look on the back of your meats. Is this naturally a high fat or a high protein meat? On a high protein day like yesterday, I had 2 meals. I had salmon and I had carne picada, which is minced up meat, cut up meat. And both of those are naturally much higher in protein than they are in fat. If you look on the back of like the carne picada, I think it's like 25 grams of protein and only like maybe 5 or 7 grams of fat per serving. So it's already naturally high protein. Since I'm choosing to have a high protein day, I am adding a minimal amount of fat to the carne picada. I didn't add any fat. Because again, it's a high protein day. I added some seasonings and I added some hot sauce for flavor. On the salmon, which is much higher in protein than fat, again, very small amount of fat, like 5 grams per serving. I did opt to add a couple of tablespoons of butter to make it palatable, but I use seasonings for the flavor. So I didn't have to worry about macros. I don't have to worry about really calories or anything like that, because honestly, your high protein days are going to be lower in calorie and your high fat days are going to be higher in calorie. And remember, we talked about how it's normal and natural to cycle through high and low calorie days. Our body likes that. And so anyway, and it sort of mimics what would happen in nature. So I just want to clarify that as long as you decide ahead of time, do I want this to be a high fat day? Do I want this to be a high protein day? You first start with your meat. Is it already high fat? Is it already high protein? You can have if you choose to have a higher protein meat on your high fat day, that's fine too. You're just going to eat a smaller portion. So for example, yesterday when I chose my high protein meat and I chose the salmon, I ate a whole pound of that. It was 2 pieces of salmon. And that's because I needed a lot of bulk to fill me up. If it's a high fat day and I'm choosing a food that's naturally higher in protein than lower in fat, I'm going to eat a smaller portion of that. I would maybe eat one of those. I'd have that half pound of salmon and I would add quite a bit more butter if I was eating salmon on a high fat day. So I hope this clarifies. I hope, again, one of the most important parts of this whole challenge is that you have the freedom to just quickly pick something to eat based on what you have. You can glance at the back of it and say, is this high fat? Is it high protein? And knowing ahead of time, I want this day to be one or the other. Again, if it's high protein, you're not going to add a lot of fat. If it's a high fat day and you're eating something that's already really fatty, it's optional whether you add fat, and that is to your satiation, your satisfaction, whatever you need to fill you up. So I hope that really helps with simplifying food. I'm glad I got a few minutes to just pop on, but also just wanted to reiterate how grateful and excited I am that you guys are so active here in the group. I went through the list of names and I was noticing that almost all of you are participating. We only have just a couple of people I really haven't seen act or participate in the group, and I hope you'll jump in, or I hope you're watching from afar at least and you are doing this challenge. But we are almost through the first week and I am so excited. Tomorrow morning I am going to pop on and talk about why I encourage you not to weigh, and give you some examples and things like that. So today was all about simplifying your food. If you have questions about this or need further clarification, comment here on this video and allow others to help you, or I can reach out and help you as well. But we want it to be simple. Plan your days, pick your proteins, either add fat if it's a high fat day, if it's not a fatty food, or just enjoy it as it comes in nature. And I'll post my foods. Actually, you know what? I'll post it here under this video just to give you an example of what high fat looks like in my world. So anyway, thanks guys. I hope you have an amazing day, and so grateful to have you all here as part of this challenge. See you soon.